In the annals of history, there existed two couples whose fame and glamour rivaled that of Hollywood's brightest stars, encompassing the likes of Cary Grant, Paul Newman, Natalie Wood, and Deborah Kerr. These iconic duos were none other than the Queen and Prince Philip, and the dynamic duo from across the Atlantic, U.S. President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy. The fateful meeting of these two power couples occurred in June 1961, when President Kennedy and Jackie were hosted by Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip at Buckingham Palace. The occasion, part of a broader European tour following JFK's election and youthful inauguration as president in November 1960, stirred unparalleled interest and optimism on both sides of the Atlantic. For the British monarchs, this event marked the commencement of their emergence onto the global stage as celebrities, a facet of royal life that would become so entrenched it's challenging to recall a time when things were different. However, this wave of optimism was destined to be short-lived, and tragedy loomed just around the corner. Exactly 60 years ago, on November 22, 1963, the world was shaken by the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in Dallas. This pivotal moment not only altered the course of American history and its presidencies, but also had profound implications for the British royal family. Their lives would henceforth be cloaked in a dense blanket of security, forever changed by the events that transpired. In the brief span of 3 years, the monarchy underwent a remarkable transformation. The aura of glamour and chic surrounding Mrs. Kennedy had already garnered substantial attention during the couple's visit to Paris, where they were hosted by President Charles de Gaulle and honored with a grand dinner at the Palace of Versailles. President Kennedy's playful quip during a press conference, declaring himself the man who accompanied Jacqueline Kennedy to Paris, added a touch of levity to the international affair. Back in Britain, Prime Minister Harold Macmillan reportedly admired Jackie's ability to speak French fluently, a talent that had charmed President de Gaulle. However, a hint of rivalry surfaced when Queen Elizabeth, herself a proficient French speaker, retorted, "Well, we can all do that." This era was one of immense global change, with the Cold War reaching its zenith and President Kennedy facing formidable challenges, including the Bay of Pigs invasion and navigating the complexities of foreign policy, particularly in Africa. The winds of change were blowing across the continent as nations sought independence from European empires. Kennedy's foreign policy speech at Stanselm College in 1960 underscored not only the Soviet Union, but also the significance of Africa in the geopolitical landscape. Meanwhile, Harold Macmillan acknowledged the burgeoning national consciousness in Africa, proclaiming, "The wind of change is blowing through this continent." Amidst this geopolitical upheaval, Queen Elizabeth stood at the center of the storm. As her biographer Ben Pimlat noted, the Commonwealth in Asia, as well as Africa, was changing by the month. The Queen, though no longer the head of state for many nations gaining independence, played a crucial role in maintaining ties through her leadership of the Commonwealth. As Kennedy embarked on his visit to London, plans were already underway for the Queen's tour of Ghana, a republic that remained within the Commonwealth. The tour, scheduled for November 1961, proved to be a delicate diplomatic dance amid civil liberties disputes, anti-British sentiments, and the contentious American funding of the Volta Dam project. In the aftermath of Kennedy's meeting with the Queen and witnessing her steadfastness in insisting on the African tour, he threw his support behind the Volta Dam project. Little did the world know that this meeting, initially a symbol of glamour and optimism, would become a precursor to a series of global shifts and tragedies that would shape the course of history for both nations and their iconic leaders. In the convivial ambience of a June 1961 banquet, discussions about Africa and Russia undoubtedly permeated the air. Lighter topics, such as the shared love of horses between the two women present and anecdotes about their children, also found their way into the conversation. Despite President Kennedy's gesture of presenting Queen Elizabeth with a signed portrait housed in a silver Tiffany frame, inscribed with a handwritten message conveying appreciation and high esteem, the atmosphere retained a certain coolness. Complications arose over the guest list, exacerbated by the royal family's steadfast stance against divorce. The specter of historical precedents, such as Edward VI's abdication in 1936, and the Queen's sister renouncing her relationship with the divorced group captain Peter Townsend in 1955 cast a shadow over the proceedings. When the Queen discovered the inclusion of Princess Lee Radziwill, Jackie Kennedy's divorced sister based in London, and her husband, Prince Stanislaw Radziwill, who was on his third marriage, in the guest list, initial objections were raised. Diplomatic concerns led the Queen to reluctantly accept their presence but retaliate by excluding Princess Margaret and Princess Marina, as per Jackie's specific request. Jackie, in a candid conversation with writer Gore Vidal, disclosed, "The Queen had her revenge. No Margaret, no Marina, no one except every Commonwealth Minister of Agriculture they could find." Despite the tensions, the Queen, well informed about the First Lady's interest in art, provided Jackie with a personal tour of Buckingham Palace's remarkable art collection, as portrayed in the second episode of The Crown. The Crown's narrative takes an intriguing turn, suggesting that Jackie later disparaged Queen Elizabeth at another dinner, describing her as a middle-aged woman so incurious, unintelligent, and unremarkable that Britain's new reduced place in the world was not a surprise but an inevitability. Buckingham Palace was allegedly characterized as second-rate, dilapidated, and sad, like a neglected provincial hotel. Whether this account is entirely fictional or a testament to the Queen's ability to forgive remains uncertain. Surprisingly, the following year, the Queen extended an invitation to Jackie for lunch during her visit to London. The relationship between Queen Elizabeth and Jacqueline Kennedy took on a more significant dimension following the tragic events that befell the Kennedy family. Deeply moved by Jackie's widowhood and the assassination of a democratically elected leader, Queen Elizabeth played a pivotal role in establishing a lasting memorial for President Kennedy near Windsor Castle. The Queen's gift to the United States, an acre of land beside the River Thames at Runnymede, near the site where Magna Carta was signed in 1215, resulted in the creation of a memorial garden. Designed by landscape artist Gordon Jellicoe, the garden features 47 steps, each symbolizing a year of Kennedy's life and representing human individuality and freedom, mirroring the ideals of Magna Carta and the American Constitution. The opening ceremony in May 1965 marked a poignant moment of unity, overshadowing past disagreements about dinner guests, fashion, and interior design. Photographs captured the Queen alongside Mrs. Kennedy and her children, with a young John Jr. holding hands with Prince Philip. Robert Kennedy, who would tragically succumb to another assassin's bullet 3 years later, stood behind them. During the ceremony, Mrs. Kennedy planted an American oak, its leaves turning the color of blood, creating a red pool around the monument every November, coinciding with the anniversary of President Kennedy's assassination. The impact of JFK's death extended beyond the memorial garden, prompting heightened anxiety within the royal family about the vulnerability of public figures. In the subsequent years, while the royal family continued public engagements and walkabouts, security measures subtly intensified, both in Britain and during international trips. The Queen's visit to Canada in 1964 was marked by heightened concerns about her safety, particularly in Quebec, where separatist sentiments were on the rise. The British press expressed alarm, and stringent security measures, including destroyer escorts for Britannia and a city under siege atmosphere in Quebec City, were implemented. Although the Queen faced boos and cries of "Chaz Vaus," urging her to go home, during her visit to Quebec, she remained resolute. The tragic death of JFK had altered the landscape, emphasizing the evolving nature of the world. As the Queen once declared, "I must be seen to be believed," yet the freedom celebrated by the Kennedy Monument could no longer be hers. The world had irrevocably changed. Catherine Pipinster, the author of Defenders of the Faith, The British Monarchy, Religion, and the Coronation, provides a nuanced exploration of the intricate dynamics that unfolded between Queen Elizabeth and Jacqueline Kennedy, revealing a tale of diplomatic challenges, personal interactions, and enduring legacies. Dear friend, if you like everything new about the royal family and don't want to miss all the novelties, subscribe to our channel and like it. By doing so, you take part in our development. We work for you.